Ooh, big things in EVE Online happening. I'm all excited, can't talk about it. But it's actually really cool because I started to get more adventurous, and now, because I got more adventurous and I started another character, all of a sudden, boom, something comes up that's going to actually really make a lot of the stuff I've been doing actually worthwhile. Yeah, I'm literally like at that stage of like, whoa, I should do this. And I'm like, whoa, I never considered that because it's just a higher level of gameplay. And yeah, so I'm excited. Something came up. Kevin Samuels has been interviewing these women, and or he interviewed these women and he recorded it, put it on pieces. And so there was one woman in particular who she had the like 1.5-inch talon kind of nails, and she said something that was one of the most profoundly honest things. She said that all of them were kind of saying that, and this has come up a number of times, not wanting to need a man, not wanting to need anybody else. I'm a rock, I am an island. That's the idea. That's kind of, with that song, I am a rock, I am a island, blah, blah, blah. And it's a very stubborn, and so this is a mentality that would never come out of Christian Black Americana. This is post-Christian Black Americana. This is post-welfare state Black Americana. So and then this woman said, who do you date? I date high class. But all these women were speaking in a way that betrayed a natural tendency to speak like a juvenile, to speak with a juvenile level of grammar. Whoa, big old accident or something? Holy crap. They got all of it out there. Something happened. Yeah, something happened. One of the things that you can't be high class. Okay. There's a thing that's come up in being so educated. All these, you need to get educated. If immediately you cannot figure out if you can't make an onomatopoeia, if you can't think of a word that's an onomatopoeia right now, and you're like, oh, what is an onomatopoeia? What's an onomatopoeia? Very likely you are not high class. If you were not taught Greek root words, Roman, Latin suffixes and root words, you were not well educated, you're not high class. It's just plain out. This would be standard working class education of Catholics from about 40, 50 years ago. If you were not forced to memorize the multiplication tables, you were not well educated, you were cheated out of a good education. And really, I want to make sure it's understood. You were cheated. You were a child. You should have been taught Roman and Greek suffixes. You should immediately, you should remember phonics. You can't learn English without phonics. I know people who were in the state of Pennsylvania, in the Philadelphia area. Phonics had been dropped from your education easily by the time the late 90s came around, because I've talked to one or two people who were from there, and they had no idea what phonics was. They were like, you mean that ad, like learning with phonics or whatever? So when women keep saying this thing, the progressives keep saying they're so educated, these women keep saying they want high class this, high class that, but they can't indicate that that's their upbringing. And you can't fake it. You cannot fake it unless, the only way you could fake it is if you become it. I could say this because my grandpa was just a normal dude who spoke Jasper Dutch from Greater Appalachia in Indiana, and it was my grandma who taught him how to talk to all the big wigs at these companies so that he came across like a Harvard man. And he was able to leave me enough money that I was able to go through school, pay off my debts, and he was a professional artist. And so there's really now this, I really have to stress that he knew exactly where it lied. That he knew that, and he never faked where he was from, because he liked the idea. Ooh. There we go. All right. He liked the idea that, you know, this guy from a relatively simple background could make it, and make it big, and make it big in the world of art. And at that time, you had to have fat pockets, deep and fat pockets supporting your efforts. Because what he worked in was designing exhibits. Back during the height of the jazz era, the height of it, for Chicago Museum of Science and Industry. And that was where he was for a long time. Then he worked for, I think General Designs. And I'm actually starting to think more and more that he wasn't a spook, but I think that he was around a lot of spooky people, and I'm pretty sure he knew it. I'm pretty sure he knew he was around spooky characters. At one point, I think he got blacklisted because somebody who knew was supposedly a communist. He didn't seem to have any interest in stuff like communism. I don't even think he really entertained the idea. You know, he was the kind of guy who had cufflinks, you know, multiple cufflinks. And, yeah, so let me just put it out there like that. So I'm from a background of good, standard, solid Americana. You can make it if you really try. You could have your dreams, you can make it. My father, a lot less of that mentality. My mother was a rather confused person who really did show a lot of the signs of sort of what was starting to happen to Black American women of her generation. That she was fundamentally like 8 years my dad's junior, so he was from the Beat generation. She was solidly from a kind of a soul girl from that era of time. So I've met people who were of high breeding, of many different ethnicities, of different religions. I met people who, they could trace their family back a really long time in other countries. And they have tribe, you know, they have fucking tribe, you know, it's like, you know, there's, you know, their family, the marriage of their parents was the old-fashioned way. And these are people who were my junior by many years. So it's when you know class, when you see it and hear it, for the most part. When you see it and hear it, it demonstrates itself. So a lot of this where Kevin Samuels was saying, you know, what do you date? Do you date high class? And these women saying this stuff, and it's like, you don't seem to understand that you're not speaking like somebody who could make it in that. Like I remember how my grandmother spoke. My grandmother was the kind of person who criticized I believe it was called the dangling participle and split infinitive. Yeah, my grandfather didn't like how Dan Rather splits his infinitives. A boy from Jasper, Indiana. And then schooling. Don't know much about his schooling. All I do know, his great-grandfather found interest in teaching himself instruments. So I'm the only person in the family who hadn't learned formal music. like formally learned music. This is standard Americana. And a lot of people who, I don't, this, yeah, let me try to put this in a way that's not going to be kind of, just be full of pure fire and fucked up as hell. A lot of this is a lot of younger people don't really know sort of how fallen, or like not even fallen, but also like the idea of like, well, no, I mean, you're really normal. Like you're extraordinarily normal. And that's really something that, I mean, I just can't stress enough, is that this seems to be a real problem for a lot of the it's almost like almost anybody and anything liberal. This is like a real problem for them. They're like really upset by being just a normal American person with a lot of the normal outcomes. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because it's just one of these things. As time's gone on, it's just, as even my mom kind of brought this up, that things about class and just stuff that she's just like, no, honey, no, you can't wear those jeans anymore. They have holes in them. I'm like, oh, but it's cool though, and she's like, no, it's not. You're not leaving the house in tatters. This is a normal girl from the south side of Chicago. It's and you didn't, yeah. And there's just a way you did things. Yeah. So I just want to. Interesting. All right. So I just it was just something that I'm looking at what has come up over the looking at intelligence reports, but yeah, so this was just something that so then one of the things that was profoundly true of what this woman said, that was it, is she absolutely confirmed Brie Folt's matrilocal, that it's normal for matrilocal breeding and upbringing of children. So in most societies, up until really what he calls uncultured and savage societies, before we achieved civility and modernism and modern technology. Oh man, oh, there we go. Oh, there's part 5. Oh yeah. What the fuck? Whoa, you all have crazy hair. Never mind. That matrilocal, that the child belongs to the woman's family. This woman just flat out said, I'll have a wealthy guy's kids, but I don't want him living with me. I don't want him helping me parent the children. Also, this is insane. And he said that's insane. You're crazy. And he's right. That's a kind of mentally ill point of view. But it does make sense if within one generation you went from civilized to just right back to the fucking grasslands of Africa. Right back to some swampland by the river. Some simple ass. We live in a place that there ain't no shoes. Why do we need husbands and shoes? We got sperm donors and feet. It's just, and that's all it is, because it's until you have a modern economy, you don't need, when you could have a breadwinner. Remember, the only reason we don't have a household breadwinner is the elites of our society have been sapping the fucking wealth out of this society since about the Nixon administration, and even before then. They started with FDR, Then they got thwarted because everybody made sure FDR, they took every bit of power they could away from FDR, changed the fucking Constitution so the presidency had a limitation on it, and fucking inevitably, I mean, it was the Supreme Court themselves. FDR's Supreme Court had to try to take power away from him. This is who the Democrats really are. This is who progressives, Democrats, leftists, liberals are all like this. They just can't. And so they love, and so they bamboozled everybody, and they made now an entire generation think that they're well educated because they got into college, and it's like, I don't think you get it. What is going on with this? You're trying to tell me something, Windows, but you're not. That's really weird. It's obviously there's obviously something about memory that I'm supposed to do, and I have a 2 terabyte hard drive shoved in this thing, but I have no idea if it backs up to it. And of course, I just need to take the time to go fiddle-faddling with it, because they want you to upload it to the internet, all of your memory and all of your stuff. Yeah. So I was just thinking about this. I'm going to watch to see what these women have to say, because apparently now they're saying that men are useless. So they want to marry these high-class men they want to marry a 6-figure man and all this stuff, but they can't conjugate verbs correctly. Their filler words make them sound like kids, like juveniles. If you were not forced to make speeches once a week for like a whole year of school, if you were not forced to recite from texts out loud, where you would be in front of the class reading, not reading from just where you're sitting, you had to go in front of the class and you had to read from a text. If that wasn't a part of your upbringing, you were scarcely raised to be middle class. You were not well educated. Your teachers cheated you. They were supposed to have you able to, and people don't even get this, like average men of Southern upbringing of my dad's generation would be able to recite poetry that they had to have memorized decades before. That would not be abnormal. That would not be an abnormal thing to be able to do. To be able to actually know notes, something about musical writing. Like I don't, none of you, all of you know, I don't play any instruments or anything. I'm just a fan, and I know what a G clef is, because that was you had to read some music in Catholic school upbringing. And I mean, I was in school with people who were refugees from the El Salvadorian War, so this is not like some high post shit. People have to realize the public school system, Democrats, progressives, the liberals, all these people, they're making money on your misery. And a lot of black women don't get, like, no, you really don't understand. You've been robbed. And a lot of this is coming from these fail state women. These old fail state women have ruined their relationships. And that's why they vote Democratic. They're ruiners. That's why they ruined Chicago, ruined Detroit, ruined Philly, ruined Hunters Point, ruined Fillmore, ruined Oakland, ruined West Oakland, ruined Emeryville, ruined West Berkeley. And all they got to do is stop ruining things. Stay married, raise the kids properly, hopefully homeschool them, make sure they have some type of theological training or some kind of philosophical training, and that they have to be nerds. You don't raise your kids to be rappers and fucking athletes. You raise them to be nerds with some athletic background, hopefully in something like in wrestling or gymnastics. All right, peace.